Hello, everybody, and good afternoon. We're going to get started here at the 2-minute mark, so I will come back in 1 minute and we will get talking to you about collaboration conundrum, how teams can achieve shared outcomes from wherever they work. Well, hopefully that gave it enough time for everybody to join. So I'd like to say good afternoon to everyone and good morning. I'm coming to you from Austin, Texas, where it's a bit cloudy today. We've got some rain, so I hope you're having better weather than myself. And to those of you on the West Coast, good morning. Today, we're going to be talking about cracking the collaboration conundrum and how teams achieve shared outcomes from wherever they work. I'm happy to be your moderator today. My name is Vita Sternberg. We've got a 45-minute presentation for you before a 15-minute Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions at any time during today's presentation, please use the GoToWebinar question queue, and we'll answer them during that Q&A session at the end, unless I can work them in during the presentation or they're pertinent to the current conversation. If you'd like to reach out to me about anything related to Humantelligence, webinar questions, or future webinar topics, please feel free to reach out to me directly at vita.sternberg@humantelligence.com, or you can just chat me on LinkedIn. And while you're already on LinkedIn, you can go ahead and follow us at Humantelligence. We post a lot of great content there. So per usual during this presentation, we plan to provide you with some quick takeaways that you can start using today, talk about tools that can help, and even give you a look at Humantelligence, how it can help you in the long term as well. Here are a couple of things that you can try that will help with remote work equity, and we'll get into them a little bit more later. But first, I want to talk to you about remoteworkscorecard.com. You can take our free remote work assessment for yourself or for your team and get a diagnostic look at strengths, weaknesses, and get insights on how to improve. Also, we have a great collaboration tool available on Outlook, Microsoft Teams, Google Chrome, Gmail, Google Calendar, Slack, and Facebook Workplace. All the communication tools that you already use. It's based on a psychometric profile that analyzes behaviors, motivators, and work energizers, and improves communication and collaboration. And once I hand things off in the next slide to today's presenter, I'll put those links to the chat. So at this time, I'd like to introduce you to today's presenter, Humantelligence CEO Juan Luis Betancourt. Right now, I'm going to hand things off to you and put those in the chat for links in case you're interested in Remote Work Scorecard or EQ Everywhere. So Juan, welcome, and thanks for being our presenter today.
Thanks so much, Vita. So today's agenda, we're going to cover a few things today. We're going to cover the goals of this presentation, polls that are going to be interactive, where you guys can kind of give your opinion on where you are in this journey. The challenge, we're going to go over the challenge of HR leaders to track and equalize remote and hybrid workforce. Post-COVID, we're all now grappling that. There was a phase of shock and awe a year ago where we're all leaving work to work remote, and then steady state of being far away, and then now we're all moving back to some form of either remote or hybrid. So what are those challenges? We're going to highlight those. Then we're going to go into leveraging technology to optimize collaboration. No matter what your end state will be, whether it's all remote, all hybrid, or all back to work, there are now lots of great technologies out there to optimize collaboration between your employees, even when they don't see each other. So that's one section of the presentation. We'll then go through expected results by putting in technologies like this, what you can expect, highlight some of the resources, and then end with 10 minutes of Q&A. So today's goal, we want to show you how to unlock insights about your team and to put emotional intelligence, what a lot of people call EQ, at your employees' fingertips in order to optimize collaboration and to drive performance.
So we're going to get things kicked off with a poll, which I will launch shortly, talking all about hybrid work. So for those of you who are returning to the office, even if it's a couple of days a week, I'd like you to vote on which of these applies to you best. One, you're going to let individuals decide which days they want to come into the office. Two, you'll mandate everyone to come in Mondays to start the week together in one place and then break off to your respective remote or hybrid environments. Three, you'll pick who works remotely or hybrid based on their personality and their natural ability to work remote or not. Four, you're going to compensate those who come into the office for gas if remote workers are currently saving money on that. And five, you'll make decisions based on teams, not on individuals. So if you give me one moment to launch this poll, we'll get your insight. And you should see that populating on your screen now. I'm going to give it 3 minutes and we'll come back with those results. So from my end, I can see that over 50% of you are voted, so we'll give it 1 more minute. If you haven't got your vote in, do it now so that we can count your answers. Alrighty, we've got about 10 seconds left and I'm going to close this poll and show the results. So if you haven't clicked yet, get in there real quick. So let's share these results. We've got the majority of people saying that they will make decisions based on teams and not by individuals at 55%. Let individuals decide which days they want to come into the office at 46. Mandate everyone come in Mondays to start the week together, 16. And then the bottom two are compensate those who are saving money by not going to the office and pick who works remotely or hybrid based on their personality. Now, we do have a follow-up poll based on that, which is just a simple true or false. Optimizing collaboration among newly distributed teams will be harder as we transition into a mix of hybrid and remote first workforce models. True, false, or not sure? I'm going to get your opinion on this, and then I'll ask you, Juan, for some commentary.
Yeah, and Vita, I'm going to need to give commentary on the previous one as well, like not just this one, and maybe not so long on giving them time. Let's just do 1 minute, and then not a second minute, just the first minute to do this. This is true false, so let's go a little quicker on the polls.
All right, y'all, we heard it from Juan. We have 1 minute for this one. All right, we'll be closing this poll now, and I will share the results. So for this, we've got 48% of you saying that it's true, 30% not sure, and 20% at false. So Juan, for you to give commentary, I'm going to go back one slide and look at the results, and then we'll move forward. So the winner of this poll was number 5, make decisions by teams, not by individuals, and the least 2 were number 3 and 4. So you can tell me your thoughts on that one.
Yeah, Vita, so you can't pull up the actual results page again?
I'm not sure. Let's choose any of that. Share results. Yes, I can. Here we go.
Okay, great. Yeah, this is much easier for people to see. Yeah, so obviously the first and the last one were the ones that were most picked. So, you know, returning to the office is a big question / problem / solution. It depends whose perspective you're looking at. Many of our HR clients, hundreds of companies that we poll and do the same thing, are in the same spot as this poll shows. There is no right answer. People don't know what to do. You know, it's interesting, the concept of making decisions by what teams come in so they can be together, not just by individuals. That's great. That's from our customers who've seen great results in that balance of individual needs, but team and company needs. It does seem that if you're making the decision to go back to work based on the team and not by all of corporate, it actually ends up being a better win-win for everyone. So that I'm glad to see that many of you, half of you, are already getting there, but that definitely is a good takeaway that we see as very successful. Second is, you know, letting individuals aside. It seems like a lot of people are still letting individuals aside. You know, the problem with that is, you know, imagine if the goal of people coming back by the company is to people be in the office at the same time. If you have 1,000 people and, you know, 200 pick Monday to come back, 200 pick Tuesday, 200 pick Wednesday, you'll actually never have everyone back in the office the same day. So if you only do it by individual choice without letting, you know, a couple days mandated where everyone comes, you don't really serve the purpose of being together, and then nobody's happy. People are coming back and they're not, they don't want to be there, and the companies aren't getting the benefit either. So we recommend that fifth one combined with the first one being the right solution, at least what seems to be working with a lot of companies. Okay, now we can go to the true false poll results, Vita. Okay, great. Thanks, Vita. So in terms of dealing or grappling with this kind of how do you optimize collaboration in this new distributed model, is it easier or harder? People do find, half of you are finding that it is harder, and another third are finding that you're not sure because it's the TBD. 1 in 5 of you clearly are saying, no, you know what, we figured it out, no longer harder. So maybe you guys have been doing it longer, and there is kind of a figuring out model. So this kind of does align with what's happening on the broader market. Next. So what is the challenge today? So when they do the studies at Burson, the big Deloitte practice that focuses on HR, or the Katzenbach Center at PwC, all of our sources and the partners at these large consulting firms and all the surveys, the Gartner surveys, show that remote and hybrid is here to stay, right? So, you know, only 3.6% of the workforce work from home in 2018, which is crazy now that we've all been doing it for, you know, the world for a year. 83% of companies do plan on making shifts in these workforce models by the end of this year, now that they have 1.5 years of data. And it's going to be a combination of either remote first or hybrid or smaller satellite offices. 87% of workers, obviously an individual, wants to work remote at least 1 day per week, if not more. 68% a hybrid model once the pandemic ends. And 42% of workers say they would seek a different job if their employer refuses to offer some sort of remote work option. So that's huge. That bullet point around 42%. Can you imagine a company now grappling with, you know, 4 of 10 employees, almost half their employees, saying, if you don't offer me this option, I'm going to quit and go somewhere else. That's putting fear in the eyes of HR and companies, but it's a real reality. We've all now taken the bite of the apple where we're not in a car every morning for an hour to hour and a half, and every afternoon for an hour and a half. If you do the math, it's about 2 to 3 hours a day of transportation and costs and gas, etc., times 5 days a week. We're looking at 10 to 15 hours of lost productivity in your own personal life and work life. And so imagine that now that you've gotten that back, to have to give that up again, people are going to, say, no, I want to find a company that's going to honor this new kind of work balance. So 35% though do find collaboration remotely as isolating, and there's challenges, and that's from the 2021 State of Work study. So, these are all challenges that are real, that are happening for all of you. Next. So here are just some of the companies that you guys know well. Logos of companies that are only going remote now. They said we're going to go remote moving forward, and it's a company policy. So things like companies like Pinterest, Nationwide, Quora, and others. And then hybrid companies that said it's going to be a balance of both. So Deloitte, Google, Twitter, and others, JP Morgan, Facebook, etc. Next, Slack. So this collaboration conundrum, connecting, communicating, and collaborating away from a physical location without seeing or even meeting people, that's the new reality, and that can be tough. It's now going to be challenging to optimize collaboration. You don't have the chance to read the body language in the room, don't have the chance to get to know people between meetings or before or after a meeting. So those returning to the office, okay, are going to go back to what they, to this added context and inputs of information, and others will remain remote, and others are going to do hybrid, right? And there's questions of equality, and is that fair? And how do you compensate for those that are driving to work now or not? This impacts relationship management for not only the individual, but teams and those leading business units, as well as the overall productivity of an organization. These issues of equality and how to choose and mandate remote versus hybrid and the needs of an individual and what their rights are, these are all things that are what the HR industry are calling conundrum or challenges around collaboration. Next.
So we do have one more follow-up poll on how long do you think it would take to implement an effective technology solution for better communication and collaboration among your teams? 3 days to a week, 2 to 4 weeks, 1 to 2 months, or longer than 2 months. So I'll run this poll for just a minute. And to fill that time while y'all are answering the question, I did want to let you know that this week the Miami Herald released that we were voted one of the top 3 tech startups among 500 other companies, and we'll be sure to include that information in our follow-up email. We'll also include a recording of this webinar and the slide deck as well. We've got just about 15 more seconds here, and I can see that over 60% of you have voted. So I'm excited to see those results and get your input, Juan. So it looks like the winner is 1 to 2 months at 34%. Close behind is 2 to 4 weeks, and we actually have a tie between the first choice and the last choice, 3 days to 1 week, and then over 2 months. Juan, what do you think about this?
That's interesting. So what it indicates is that people don't know, there's no consistent understanding of how these kind of tools and solutions work. I'm sure some of you have dealt with really painful software implementations, and some of you have maybe worked with really easy to use things, such as the 3 days to 1 week. So, software and technology can be painful, 2+ months, And if it's the right software and technology, and there's a lot of great tools out there, it can be really seamless and simple. We're here to show you one example of the seamless to simple of basically in 1 or 2 days getting massive communication and collaboration improvement with a quick tool. So we'll show you that later. Next. So the solution that we present as just one of many, there's a lot out there, and we'd be happy to answer questions about other ones in our Q&A, is we have this effective collaboration tool that supports both inclusion, communication improvement, team performance, and collaboration from wherever a person or a team might work. This is called the EQ Everywhere platform, and it optimizes collaboration on the spot. It makes sure that teams are engaged. Okay, it uses the secret sauce. It uses a very simple scientific personality assessment. Okay, that is not a survey. It does not ask people what they think, but actually draws out of people without them knowing in 12 minutes their behaviors, their motivators, and work styles, and then uses that insight throughout all the platforms a company uses. So gives actionable EQ insights in your daily workflow. So imagine, think of where do you live every day at work, whether you're at home or at the office, you're in your email, you're at meetings and you're going to calendar invites. Imagine every time you're an email or a calendar invite, if you're going to have an interaction with somebody, writing to them or in a meeting, about to participate in a meeting with them, you can click on one button and it gives you all the insights to optimize your connection, your collaboration, and communication with an individual through writing or in the meeting. Okay, and that allows for employees to engage in a higher quality and much more meaningful collaboration from wherever they work. And it's simple. Next. You should understand a little bit of the science. It's psychometrics meets data analytics meets software. So think of all those old assessment tools you've ever used, predictive index, strength finders, Gallup, Berkman, Caliper, MBTI. There's like a cottage industry of 50 years of these things. The reason they've never really been effective other than the workshop moment or the one and done is those aren't software companies. There are now companies, we're just one of them, that have taken those assessment type products and built it into your workflow so you're accessing this stuff all the time, and it's not a printout, you don't need a consultant, and it's not only owned by HR as the gatekeepers that have to get certified. I mean, the painful certification to become an IO psychologist, to know what these things say, that's all going out the window, and all the expense and cost and labor to do it is not needed. Now a software platform can give you all of that and make every person in your company, from the janitor to the CEO, an industrial psychologist and a better communicator and a better team member. And so the three things that this tool measures, at least the Humantelligence tool, is that it measures behaviors, how you behave. It measures motivators and gives insights now on why you do the things you do. Imagine understanding the people you write to or are in a meeting with and understand what motivates them, right? Probably would change how you communicate and what you say, as well as work energizers, what you like to do and the environment you like to do it in, right? Do you like to work in an environment that's structured or creative? Well, if you guys are having a brainstorming session, wouldn't you want to pick the creative people versus the too structured people, or maybe a combination to create some positive friction on the ways of thinking? Anyways, those are the things that a tool like Humantelligence measures that really then give insights around how to communicate better between people and how to run meetings better in this new remote reality where you're not seeing people often. Next.
All right, well, let's see how things work. I'm gonna hand it over to you, Juan, for a demo.
Awesome, thanks, Vita. So I'm gonna share screen. If I can click the right button, make another view in full screen, show screen, here we go. Show my screen. All right, Vita, can you let me know when you can see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen, so if you can't put it in the question queue, but it seems like we're all good from my end.
Perfect. So if everybody sees the green marker that I'm putting here, this is once you've integrated a tool like this, okay, into your Outlook, your Chrome, your Slack, your SharePoint, your Workday, your SuccessFactors, whatever platform you have, we've built APIs so that you can get to it through that platform, Microsoft Teams, etc. I'm just doing a demo of one of these platforms, but it's as simple in all of them. Your admin, so somebody in IT, is an admin for your technology, different software products, or maybe if you're a large company, you have an HR analyst who focuses on HR IT. Now, Outlook sometimes sits within HR, but often just under the CIO. So to get these two buttons here, you basically would have your admin person click on the top left there, type in on a, let's say you guys agree to, your HR and CIO agree to use this tool, search for EQ Everywhere, and then literally just click on the word added here under EQ Everywhere, the word added. It will then, every employee, let's say 8,000 employees, the next time they log in, they will have these two buttons. So now when you write to somebody in the company, let's say I don't know Vita and I'm a large company, so we have clients like Coca-Cola, Southwest Beverages, Wise Food, like the potato chip company, Merck, Bank of the West, companies like Lyft. They're all using our platform for things like this. And so let's say you're in a large company like Coca-Cola and I don't know Vita, I can then click on this talent profile button up here, okay? And when I do that, it'll pull up tips in my workflow around Vita and Vita's personality, that Vita is a creative. He likes to bring unique and creative ideas to the table. Well, if I've never written to Vita or gone to a meeting with Vita, it'd be good to know that, if I'm asking for his feedback, I can even make a little comment, hey, please give me, lots of your feedback, Vita, please provide feedback. I know you're very creative. Feel free to kind of suggest new ways of doing it, right? I will see that they're a maverick and they're a go-getter. That tips on how to communicate with Vita, that he likes to stay on track and talk about pertinent issues. So I might want to put specific things like I need feedback on pages 3, 4, and 8, right? Because he likes that kind of specificity. Next steps, I'll write the email in a different way because he likes for me to get to the point. How to influence Vita. Okay, he appreciates freedom to make his own decisions. So I'm not going to put pressure in the email. I'm going to give a tone that allows Vita to have the freedom to respond when they want. So maybe I don't tell them, I need your feedback by tomorrow, because that's not really giving him that freedom. I might say, can I have your feedback? I might ask him, by when can you get me your feedback? Right? And so these are all great tips around Vita on how to understand Vita to better, motivate, influence Vita. He likes to demonstrate his unique contributions to the team. So I might want to ask him in different meetings or in this email what he wants to provide. If I'm training Vita, I might want to tell Vita, when I give information, what she likes to hear in terms of the type of training and development that she aligns with. She likes to be proactive in the training. Tends to prefer individual work over group interaction. So maybe I won't have her in all group training and maybe I'll do some one-on-one. These are all the tips you can get in EQ Everywhere through your communication platforms. And it's as simple, again, as simple as somebody clicking the box up here in the corner and having everyone on your company have access to it in their toolbar. Now, again, you would have to have everyone take the assessment. So another step would be the head of HR just sends a link and says, hey, we have a new collaboration tool. Please take this assessment. The other tool that's really powerful is during meetings. So imagine if you're going to a meeting and you get to understand the culture of the meeting. So there's a meeting coming up on the 1st of June that's really important. And I want to understand who in that meeting is going to be there and what they're like. And so you click on the second button, Culture Analytics, and now it'll tell you the culture of the meeting. So imagine if you're leading that meeting, you now know the behaviors of that meeting. You know that there are a couple cautious and reflective people. These are your shy folks. So imagine when you're leading that meeting, maybe you give the questions in advance to your shy folks so that they have time to prepare and process before the meeting. Otherwise, or maybe ask them to give their feedback before the outgoing and freeform people who always dominate a meeting. So this all fits under being more inclusive in meetings based on who people are and understanding your audience. Imagine as well, if you're going to give a action item that's due tomorrow morning, first thing, you might want to give it to your decisive people and not your deliberate person. These are all really powerful tips and insights that you can get by using a platform like this. In terms of motivators, imagine going to that meeting and knowing, in terms of motivations, who the people are very team oriented who you can call on to help prepare for the meeting. Or if there's an action item to do research after the meeting, your knowledge-based person, if you need someone to do a competitive advantage, give it to your knowledge-based person who loves doing study and reading independently. Lastly, on this example, imagine in a meeting, if you're running the meeting, wouldn't it be great to know that, let's say 90% of the meeting, 90% of the people in the meeting are extremely creative, that they love new solutions. 8 out of the 10 people want something new and different, that they like variety, that they like flexibility. You probably would run the meeting very differently than if you had a meeting with all systematic people who like proven methods, facts, predictability, and structure. And even if you're a participant in the meeting, like this person, Victor, wouldn't you want to know that you're the only structured and predictive, systematic individual in that meeting? So these are all really important things for meetings to be optimized, whether they're remote or even in the office, or obviously in a hybrid situation. So this is just a quick example, and I'll stop the screen to give the control back to Vita, who will take us to the next slide. But that's a quick example of how a tool like this can work, which is really powerful for better collaboration, communication between employees in meetings and in email communication. Vita, I think you're on mute because I don't hear you.
Are you able to hear me now, you guys? Okay, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that demonstration, and we will move on to the next slide.
And go back a couple, because this slide comes in different layers, so maybe go back. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so schematically, what does this look like, right? Everyone wants employees to do step 2, to connect, collaborate, and communicate better, which leads to some level of performance, collaboration, inclusion. So step 2 and 3 is where basically everyone is today, and they're grappling with how do you do that in remote work. Using tools like the one I just showed you, where you can understand, leads to the following. Go ahead and hit the return button. Tools like the one I just showed you helps the first step that you need for all connection, collaboration, communication, which is better understanding before you go to a meeting, before you write an email. Gone will be the days where you just assume everybody communicates like you. Gone will be the days where you assume that in a meeting, it's your way or the highway. The idea of personalization, which we all get with our consumer-based software and apps at home and buying products at Best Buy or going to McDonald's or some other restaurant where they know who you are and what you like to eat. Communication will also have personalization. This is the first personalization communication tool that allows you to understand in step 1 to do step 2 better, which leads to step 3, an improved performance, collaboration, and inclusion. And so that word improved should be accentuated and highlighted, because tools like this will improve that throughout your company, which will deliver better results for your company. Next. We have here some screenshots of what I just showed you. Vita, well, she's going to send you at the end of this presentation, if you want to show, what this tool does, we have a couple screenshots that you can then use to show your peers at your company. This is the using it for email. The next one is using it for understanding the culture of a meeting, which I showed you. So we've included those in the presentation that you'll get after the meeting. Next. So optimizing collaboration on the spot, right? This is all about understanding at your fingertips so you can better communicate and collaborate. First bullet point, you can infuse this EQ data into the daily workflows of all your teams at your company at just the right moments through email, chat, Microsoft Teams, video meetings, etc. And by the way, this is not to the poll question, not a 3-month, 6-month implementation. If your management team agrees to doing this within 2 days, 1 day setting it up with the admin on Outlook or whatever technology you have, just connecting our APIs to your platform is clicking a button, giving everybody 24 hours to take the assessment, a link goes out, your leadership says this is a great tool, it's really fun, you guys all get to learn about yourself and others, click this test tool, take a 12-minute test, and literally 24 hours later, everybody can be using this. So it is less than 2 days to have your people using this tool. It's not a major software implementation, which is scary and expensive. Second bullet point, actionable communication insights around influencing, motivating, collaborating, along with the side-by-side comparisons of oneself and others. And then you can reduce back and forth for this increased productivity. And like I just mentioned, this is not a 3-month thing. This is literally 2 to 3 days to implement it. No employee training needed, no outside consultants required, no consulting firms required. It is simple transformation. Next. Another thing that we throw in that's really powerful for remote work, it's a psychometric powered resource that you can get when you sign up and do this. And it's free. We wanted to give back to society to help everyone work better remotely. And so this remote work scorecard is for an individual to see how they align to an ideal psychology of working remote. It measures these 8 key psychometrics applicable to remote work. For instance, someone who loves being part of a team and they're motivated by belonging and being of service. When you're at the office, it's easy to get energized by that because you're always with people. Going home and working far from everyone, you lose that. There are other people that need the structure of an office and an environment which has structure, others that can work in the kind of chaos of being at home with kids and not having the printer where it used to be and can figure it out. And so this allows people to get a score 0 to 100 where they lay on that scorecard, and it gives actual insights around the areas where you might want to develop certain muscles, right, in terms of working remotely. And those recommendations will help you get more energy and be happier while you're working remote. Next.
Well, that concludes the majority of our presentation for today. So we've entered the Q&A section. So for any of you who have questions about the demonstration that Juan did, or about Humantelligence, I encourage you to put them into the questions queue now. I do have one ready for you, Juan, though, if you'd like to answer it. It does regard to the demo that you did, where Victor was in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. He was the only one in the meeting who was structured. So the question goes, as a leader, how do you address somebody who is the only person on one side? You mentioned that it might be helpful for them to know they were alone, but as a leader, how would you direct that meeting if you know somebody's kind of an outlier?
Yeah, 2 things on that. One of the things our platform is showing is that companies that succeed are the ones that have diversity of thought. When you have diversity of thought, typically you can solve more complex problems. The companies that solve more complex problems usually perform better and are more profitable. And so that's a great question around Victor. Does a company want to make Victor feel part of the group or like an outlier? In this case, what it does is if you don't have a tool like this, Victor will always feel like an outlier without a tool like this, because people don't know why Victor just is different. This tool will allow people to realize, hey, we want diversity of thought. Everybody's really creative in this meeting, so that the leader, to be more tactical in my response, the leader should open up, let's say, if it's a group of people who don't know each other, or even if they've worked together, hey, we just put in this Humantelligence platform, as you can see for this meeting. Victor's the only structured one in the meeting, the only one who looks at data and predictability. Everyone else is really creative, and a lot of our meetings get into the whiteboard, big picture, creative ideas, and Victor's always trying to get us back to, well, what's the concrete thing? How can we put this on paper and make it happen? And that's been frustrating for some of you, and you guys have gained up on him. We want now a more open spirit of inclusiveness and in different people's ideas. Victor hasn't felt comfortable participating in the past. So, for today's meeting, I think I'm going to call on Victor first before I hear 7 or 8 other people, because I don't want everyone to think that just because everyone's creative, that's the right answer. We need to hear the other perspective as well. And so I think managing real time and acknowledging differences goes a long way to having people like Victor, the outlier, feel safe and comfortable participating. And then people who are in the majority who just think that's the right way, realize that maybe their way is not the right way just because the majority think that way, right? That's one very kind of just transparent, authentic way of dealing with that in the meeting, at the start of the meeting as a leader. The leader might also, if they want before the meeting, to send a note with the results of the team culture. You can get a PDF to the people and say, hey, in tomorrow's meeting, I just want you to know, we want really everyone's perspective. And as you can see from the culture that's in the meeting, Victor is very different from everyone. So I'm going to actually leverage Victor first when I ask questions. I just want to let you guys know before we start the meeting. So whether it's before the meeting, managing, expectations and making, that transparent, or during the meeting, both very powerful ways of leading to more inclusivity and more engaging conversation and different perspectives, which always lead to a better outcome and better performance. Next.
So the next question we have is, how are these profiles created uniquely? So we do have a 12-minute self-assessment you can take for free on our website, but what is unique about the Humantelligence profile, Juan?
Great question. So I'm going to share screen and pull up. These buttons are so hard. Sorry, Zoom is so much easier. There we go. Thank you. Okay, so I want to go down to the screen where it shows what we measure. Okay, so what's different about our test is the following. First of all, we measure these 3 things. 90% of the tools out there measure behavior. So you've all taken DISC, PI, Predictive Index, MBTI, Berkman Caliper. They're all in this bucket. They'll take between 5 and 12 minutes. Corud, Pymetrics, etc. And they're measuring behaviors, and that's good, and it's quick and dirty, and it's easy, and ours takes 4 minutes, so it's a little faster than other stuff. But this alone is not predictive enough. You need to understand really what drives behaviors, what's under the tip of the iceberg. So whereas behaviors, you can kind of see them, it's hard to see the motivators. By the way, just to remember what we measure, we call it the BMW assessment. So if you want to go back and tell people, oh, they measure lots of stuff, well, just remember BMW. B for behaviors, M for motivators, and W for work energizers, okay, or work styles or create environment. So there are tests that do this, and there are tests that do motivators. Some of them are called Hogan, great tests, right? By the way, all the tests I described here are all wonderful tests. MBTI is not scientifically validated. The other 7 or 8 I mentioned are. So if you want to just measure this, all those tools are wonderful tools to use. And if you want to measure just motivators, Hogan and Lominger are 2 amazing tools. And TTI has a whole battery of tests that are really great, right? Same with SHL. However, they're just measuring motivators. Those tools take sometimes 45 minutes to an hour. They cost sometimes $100 to $500. You're not giving this tool to 90% of you're giving it to your C and VP level executives. And so the difference between ours and that is we actually do it in 5 minutes, have the same statistical significance, and you can now give it to everybody, your entire company. So we do behaviors, we do motivators, and we do those 2 pieces in 9 minutes. Nobody else can do those 2 pieces in less than 45 minutes. Also, to do those 2 pieces is going to cost you $100 per person. Ours is for literally $1 or less per person. So we're cheaper, we're faster on these 2. Now, that's all fine and dandy, but the important thing is these 2 things are great, but you could have 2 people with the exact same predictive index or strength finders results, person A and person B, with the same exact results, and same with the same Hogan results, person A and B. But you could have person A happy and person B miserable in the same company, in the same job, because of this third lens. Same with Hogan or Lominger, you could have 2 people, one miserable, one happy and one miserable, in the same company, in the same job, because of this. This is all around not the self-awareness part that these tools measure, but really how you interact with an environment, the processes. Is it a structured or is it a creative environment? And so we measure 8 things here, 12 things here, and 8 things here that allows everyone to understand themselves, but also how they work in an environment, structured or creative. This allows in just 12 for you to understand your employees, for them to understand themselves better than any other tool or combination of tools in the market that would take 1 hour and millions of dollars for large companies. So that's how we're different. We're quicker, we measure more. Our output, they say, is much more easy to understand for an individual. And then above and beyond that, we use data analytics to do team culture and meeting culture. Many of the tools I described to you were only done for self-awareness. They weren't done for teams or meetings. So we've taken it into the daily usage of where really business happens at companies, which is the group level, the team level. All the tools I mentioned, most of them don't get to the team or group level in day-to-day interaction. It's kind of just as a report form. So that's kind of how we're different from anything else out there. You can take the controls back from me if you want.
Okay, great. I will do so after reading you our last question that we have from the queue, which is, Juan, can you give your thoughts on what you think some of the most important top 3 priorities in HR are for people leaders should be considering when trying to transform culture and increase collaboration for employees?
So probably and it's no longer sharing screen, right? You're putting it back on the bubbles. Yeah, perfect.
Yes, we're back in our bubbles.
Yeah, so 3 things to help transform culture. I mean, first, you can't transform something without measuring it. So you need a tool that measures the actual culture of your company. And don't fall into the trap that's thinking an engagement survey is your culture of your company. This is the biggest fallacy and the biggest mistake companies make. How much money is your company spending and all the time and energy to roll up all the engagement survey results, right? That is a temperament study. That tells you if people are happy that week or month or not. There's 2 problems with that. One, if you had just paid bonuses out to everybody in your company, an engagement survey the next couple of weeks would be really high. If you haven't paid bonuses out for 3 months, or there's like a downturn or some challenge, engagement surveys, the scores are low. That does not tell you the culture of your company. It does not tell you, if you're a research and development company, that you have people who love research and knowledge and driving to truth and solving complex problems. Whether someone's happy or sad doesn't tell you if you have the right people in the right jobs. Okay, it just tells you might have some bad managers or people are misaligned, but it doesn't tell you have the culture to succeed as an innovative scientific research organization for healthcare. Let's say you're a startup and you need to be innovative with new solutions and have an agile culture. An engagement survey will never tell you if you have that culture. So culture really is around the psychology and the work styles of your people. That's where you need psychometrics to measure culture in a rolled up data driven way where you can get analytics across groups of people, because no, you don't have one culture at your company, right? Coca-Cola is one of the best run companies in the world. And with our platform, they realize that the culture of their finance and accounting team is very different than the culture of their marketing team, which is very different than the culture of the sales team. Oh, and by the way, the culture of Coca-Cola in Brazil is very different than the culture of Coca-Cola and how they work in China. And even Starbucks with their baristas have a very different culture in Hialeah, Miami, at a Starbucks store with all Latin employees and Latin customers who are talking to the employees, holding up the baby, talking to customers, holding up the customer babies. The employees are touching customers. They're asking personal questions. It might take 20 minutes to get through that line because everybody's gabbing away in a Latin environment of work and customer expectation. That high performance culture at Starbucks in Hialeah near Miami would fail miserably in New York City, where I lived for 5 years. The thing a customer wants is to be touched, have their baby held up, or even ask personal questions about what school they send the kids to by the person behind the cashier register, and let alone spend 20 minutes there. Okay, I'll never go back to that Starbucks in New York again, right? Very different culture of success, even doing the same job in the same company at Starbucks. So 3 tips on culture and transforming it. First is you need to measure it. Second is it's not engagement surveys, okay? It's not the assumption that you have one culture. You need a platform that can measure it and understand the difference in your cultures and all your functional areas and all your regions and all your countries. Another tip is management has to put money where their mouth is. We do surveys across thousands of HR executives and CEOs every month. And what they all say is 90% of them say the people and culture is the most important thing in the company. And then we ask, what is your budget for spending on culture as a service? Software that helps you measure, manage, and hire for culture. And 90% of respondents say there is no budget. How can culture and people be the most important thing, but there's no budget in software that measures it and manages it? So you need a budget. Talking about it and putting really fun slogans and statements on coffee mugs and t-shirts and on the walls and pictures in your company boardroom and on your website does not transform culture. And having people memorize 4 sentences has nothing to do with transforming culture. So you need to A, measure it, B, spend on software for culture management, and then C, live it. You need executives to show that they are the embodiment of that culture. There's usually a disconnect on what people see and live as employees and what executives are saying. So those are the 3 things: measure it, use software to manage it, and live it as executives. Next question, if we have time.
Yeah, I thought that might be your last one, but I think we have time to squeeze in one more, which is regarding the team culture tool that you demoed. Is the team culture tool only to be understood by the leader before the meeting or by all participants of the meeting?
Great question. We have hierarchy and you can turn it on and off based on the level. So about 75% of our clients, they make it open to all the employees. So everyone, whether you're a participant or a leader, can see the meeting results, right? Because you can use data and insights as a leader to improve how you lead it, but you can also use that data as an employee, as a user, as a participant in the meeting to know who you might be very different from, to avoid maybe conflict or upsetting somebody, to know who thinks like you, to know if you're similar or different. And so all that context is really important for individuals, not just leaders. So 75% of our clients expose it open to everyone. 25% only make it available to the leaders for the meeting. Now 100% use EQ everywhere for the email for everyone to be able to see each other. Great question, by the way, on that.
Great. So with that, I think we might.
Yeah.
That's all of our questions for today. So I think we might wrap up and end a little bit early, but for those of you who saw the demo and want to create a profile of your own, you can head over to humantelligence.com and take our 12-minute free self-assessment. And otherwise, thank you so much for being our presenter today, Juan, and everybody who attended will get a recording of this webinar and the slide deck as well.
And the article from the Miami Herald where we just won top startup of Miami, 500 entrants and leaders from Silicon Valley's largest tech companies like Shutterstock, 500 startups, as well as Square, the payment, all these very powerful, great minds saw our platform and thought, wow, these guys are really onto something. So kudos to my team who's developed an amazing platform. And thank you for any of you who want to learn more about that. But there's an article that will be sent out as well. You guys should read that. It kind of has a really good perspective of what we're doing. Have a great rest of your week, everyone. Thanks, Vita.
Thanks. Goodbye, everybody.